France, 1634. The convent of Loudun stood silent behind its walls. But soon, that silence would break, with screams, convulsions, and the cries of demons. What began as whispers of sin would become one of the most infamous possessions in European history, the case of Loudun. The nuns who claimed they were possessed. In the heart of France, a tale of terror was about to unfold. The Ursuline convent, once a place of quiet devotion, would soon become the stage for a drama that would captivate and horrify a nation. At the center of this storm stood a man named Urbain Grandier. Grandier was no ordinary priest. Charismatic and educated, he cut a striking figure in the small town of Loudun. But his charm was matched only by the controversy he seemed to attract. Enemies lurked in every corner, within the church, in the halls of power, and among the very townspeople he was meant to serve. Little did he know that his greatest challenge would come from behind the convent walls. It began with whispers, with strange occurrences that defied explanation. The nuns of Loudun began to change, their once serene faces contorted in pain and fear. They twitched and convulsed, their bodies moving in ways that seemed to defy nature itself. And then came the voices. Voices that were not their own, speaking of things no holy woman should know. When questioned, these tormented souls cried out a single name: Urbain Grandier. The accusations flew like wildfire. They claimed the priest had sent demons to torment them, that he had cast unholy spells, that he had seduced them in spirit, violating the sanctity of their vows. The convent transformed overnight. No longer a place of quiet prayer, it became a theater of the macabre. Word spread quickly, and soon crowds gathered to witness the spectacle. They watched in horror and fascination as the nuns writhed on the ground, screaming obscenities that would make even the most hardened sinner blush. Their bodies twisted into unnatural shapes, as if some unseen force was puppeteering them for its own amusement. Exorcisms became public events, drawing spectators from far and wide. The line between religious ritual and theatrical performance blurred. Faith, fear, and morbid curiosity intertwined, creating an atmosphere of hysteria that would grip Loudun for years to come. But beneath the surface of this supernatural drama, darker currents were at work. Urbain Grandier was more than just a local priest. He was a man who had dared to challenge power. He had openly opposed Cardinal Richelieu, one of the most influential figures in France, and Richelieu was not a man known for his forgiveness. The accusations of demonic possession provided Grandier's enemies with the weapon they had long sought. It was an opportunity to perfect, to ignore, a chance to rid themselves of a troublesome priest under the guise of holy justice. Grandier was arrested, dragged from his home to face charges that seemed to belong more to the Dark Ages than the 17th century. His trial was a spectacle to rival the exorcisms themselves. Witnesses paraded before the court, nuns who shrieked and convulsed at the mere sight of him, villagers who swore they had seen him consorting with the devil himself. Evidence was twisted to fit the narrative of guilt. Torture extracted confessions from those who might have spoken in Grandier's defense. The outcome was never truly in doubt. In a world where fear of the supernatural held such sway, and where political machinations worked in the shadows, Urbain Grandier stood little chance. The verdict came as a surprise to no one. Urbain Grandier was sentenced to death for the crime of witchcraft. On August 18, 1634, the people of Loudun gathered in the town square. They came to witness justice, or what passed for justice in those troubled times. In the center stood a pyre, and upon it, bound and resigned to his fate, stood Urbain. As the flames began to lick at his feet, the air was filled with more than just the crackle of fire. From the convent came the screams of the nuns, their bodies still racked with convulsions, crying out that the demons raged within them. Even as their supposed tormentor met his end, the crowd cheered, believing they were witnessing the triumph of good over evil, of God over the devil. But the story of Loudun did not end with Grandier's death. The flames that consumed him seemed to only fuel the frenzy that had gripped the town. Even after the priest was nothing but ashes, the nuns continued to writhe and shout. Exorcism after exorcism was performed, each more elaborate than the last, and still the demons remained. For years, the convent of Loudun remained a place of chaos and spectacle. The possessions became a draw for the curious, the faithful and the skeptical alike. People traveled from across France and beyond to witness the nuns in their torment, to see for themselves the power of evil and the struggle for salvation. As time passed and the fervor slowly began to fade, questions arose. What had truly happened within the walls of that convent? The debate continues to this day, with theories as varied as the symptoms the nuns displayed. Some argue that the nuns were victims of mass hysteria, their strict, cloistered lives creating a pressure cooker of repressed emotions that finally erupted in a storm of screams and convulsions. The power of suggestion, the fear of sin, and the claustrophobia of convent life could have combined to create a perfect storm of psychological distress. Others see a more sinister explanation, pointing to the political machinations that surrounded Grandier's downfall. Were the nuns manipulated? Their possession a carefully staged performance designed to destroy a man who had made powerful enemies? The involvement of figures like Cardinal Richelieu certainly lends credence to the idea that larger forces were at work behind the scenes. And of course, there are those who still believe that something truly supernatural occurred in Loudun, that demons walked within those walls, tormenting the innocent and challenging the power of faith itself. In a world where the line between the natural and the supernatural was far less defined than it is today, such beliefs were not only possible but common. Whatever the truth, the Loudun possessions have become legend. They stand as a chilling reminder of how easily hysteria can consume a community, how quickly whispers can become shouts, and how the flames of accusation can consume the innocent, along with the guilty. The story of Loudun is more than just a tale of supposed demonic possession. It is a mirror held up to human nature, reflecting our capacity for both faith and fear, for justice and cruelty. It shows us how easily we can be swayed by spectacle, how readily we can turn on our neighbors when fear takes hold. Today, the convent of Loudun stands quiet once more. The nuns who once screamed and writhed within its walls are long gone, their fates lost to history. But the echoes of their cries still seem to linger in the stones, a ghostly reminder of the drama that once unfolded there. History remembers the Dancing Demons of Loudun, France's possessed nuns. Their story serves as a warning and a fascination, a dark chapter in the annals of faith and human behavior. It reminds us that the line between belief and madness, between justice and vengeance, can be terrifyingly thin. As we look back on the events of Loudun, we are forced to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our societies. We see how easily fear can be weaponized, how spectacle can override reason, and how the innocent can suffer when hysteria takes hold. The convent may be silent now, but the lessons of Loudun echo through the centuries. They call us to question, to seek understanding, and to remember that in the dance between faith and frenzy, it is all too easy to lose our way in the darkness.